Standard precautions are in place, and the first thing that we're going to do is insert an oral airway into this patient. Now, oral airways come in different sizes, so you have to make sure that you're sizing the patient correctly. The way we measure an oral airway is from the corner of the mouth to the patient's earlobe. So, as you can see, this one's just a little bit too short, and this one is the correct size. There are two ways to insert the oral airway after you've selected the correct size. One involves turning it upside down and inserting it in a rotating manner. The other one involves tongue blades, and you need to know how to do both. The first way to insert the airway is to ensure that the head and neck is in a neutral position and actually hold the airway upside down. Then open up the patient's mouth, insert it until you meet resistance, rotate it into position, and then confirm that you actually have airflow through the airway by looking and listening and feeling, which we do. The second way to insert the airway is to use tongue blades. Don't use just one tongue blade because in many instances it's so weak that it will actually break. So stack two together, put them into the mouth, almost to the posterior oral pharynx, but not all the way down there. Holding the airway in its correct position, you then rotate it into position. And again, check to make sure that you have airflow by looking, listening, and feeling for the movement of air.
The patient is gagging and becoming conscious.
As soon as the patient begins to gag, we have to get the airway out. So we do that by rotating the airway outward following the natural curvature of the airway. Don't pull it straight out.
The patient requires suctioning.
There are two different suctions that we can use to get the airway clear. This is called a Yankow or a tonsil sucker. And this is called a whistle tip or a flexible suction device. With the patient in the supine position, it's always probably best to use the Yankow. Confirm that you have suction, measure the suction device, and then suction no deeper than your measurement point. And it's always good to suction up to 10 to 15 seconds, but no more. You can also suction the patient using the whistle tip. We're going to apply that suction device, but this is used to suction through the nostrils or the nares. We measure it a little bit different. We measure it keeping a natural curvature in it from the earlobe to the tip of the nose. And once we have that, turn your suction on. Make sure that you have suction. Insert the catheter. Close the on-off switch, and you can suction both nares. It's also considered appropriate to turn the patient onto his or her left side if you need to accommodate the suction.
The patient now requires a nasopharyngeal airway.
A nasal airway, unlike the oral airway, is inserted into the nares. And just like the oral airway, though, they come in different sizes, so we need to measure. But the measurement is different for this patient. We measure from the tip of the nose to the earlobe, again keeping a natural curve in the airway. And this appears to be the correct size, so we're going to open the package, take the airway out, and I'm going to again confirm that it is the correct size. These airways must be lubricated. If you don't lubricate this and you try to insert it into the patient, you're going to cause epistaxis or a nosebleed. So we're going to take some water-soluble lubricant. We're going to coat the airway. And we always first attempt to insert the airway through the right nostril. The reason we do that is because these airways have bevels on them, and you always want the bevel to ride against the nasal septum. If you try to insert it in the left nostril, this thing can end up kinking inside the nasopharynx. You'll lose the airway and you'll never even know it because it will be hidden from view. So I'm going to very gently rotate the nasal airway into position and confirm that I have airflow through that airway. If while you're inserting the nasal airway you meet resistance, don't force it. Patients may have something called a deviated septum where the wall between the two nostrils is angled toward one side, or you can have a nasal polyp. If you meet resistance, remove the airway. You don't have to remeasure it, but you do need to re-lubricate it. Turn it upside down. We're going to insert it this time into the left nostril until we meet resistance, then rotate it 180 degrees into position, and again finally confirm that you have airflow through the airway.